with Vince McMahon stepping down as CEO of WWE and more. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report for June 17th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. In a heartwarming gesture, The Rock surprised his cousin Tamina with a new home as he wrote, "I know my cousin Serona since we were little kids growing up together. Man, this girl's gone through some tough times, but regardless of what life's thrown her way, she was always determined to break the cycle and become a strong and inspiring single mom example to her two greatest inspirations, her daughters." After defeating CM Punk in 2008 to become King of the Ring, William Regal had plans to make his character even darker, but would be suspended less than a month due to a wellness policy violation. As he talked about this on his Gentleman Villain podcast, "I was taking this to a completely different realm of where I wanted to go with being a dark character, and I really hadn't figured out how far yet. And then this thing came along with the King of the Ring, but I was acting this sort of very deep, dark character. And at the time I was studying a lot of the world's dictators, and I was bringing that the last few weeks, and I was doing that stuff, the King of the Ring stuff. I was sitting at home and I'm not, again, paying attention to my family as much because I'm thinking too much of this job. But once I was out of it, I thought, I'm glad I'm out, because if I didn't, until I'm out of it, when I was a week later in Orlando just on holiday thinking I've got 7 weeks off, the initial few days was not happy because I'm taken out of this biggest role I've ever been given. But then realizing that could have been the thing that could have lost me my family, because I could have, okay, I've heard people say I could have been world champion. I've heard people say they were going to. Nobody told me anything. I was just going week by week and doing it, but I was creating this dark character." With Jeff Hardy recently making headlines for his recent DUI arrest and subsequent suspension from AEW, Matt Hardy took to his podcast to discuss where these issues began. I feel like some of Jeff's issues probably come from our mother dying when he was so young. That was always an issue that he carried with him deeply. I know 100% the biggest thing that drives me to stay healthy and not have an addiction issue at all, because I'm sure I have an addictive personality, but the thing that keeps me running and stronger than anything else in my family, my children specifically. I mean, my wife as well. She would whip my ass, as everyone knows. Any kind of chemical addiction that I might have or would have, all that has been traded in for my addiction of my children. That is a real thing that I love. I think about them growing up and I want to cry. That's a finite amount of time that I'm going to be able to spend with them, so I try to maximize and I want to optimize each and every moment I have with them. My job is to raise these young human beings, 3 boys and a girl, and shape them and forge them into good, productive people that are going to contribute to society. They're going to make the world a better place. I mean, I know that's what my mom wanted for myself and my brother, and we were on the right path for the first quarter century of our life for sure. Once we got into wrestling back in the day, there were times where stuff was kind of thrown on us. We were still really good. We were resilient about things as far as being out of control until we split. That was the first time there were ever really any chemical dependency issues. That's when Jeff was away from me. He was on the Raw show, and he was traveling with 2 guys who were pretty well known for using recreational drugs. That is when Jeff first got bad, and he ended up being released in 2003. While the plan for Summerslam was to have Roman Reigns defend his undisputed title against Randy Orton, the Viper is out of action with back injuries. The Wrestling Observer noted that WWE does not have another plan if Orton can't compete. Orton may need back surgery, and those with knowledge of these situations said that the planned Reigns vs. Orton main event for July 30th at Nissan Stadium in Nashville is in jeopardy. There is a backup plan for Reigns, but we were told at press time the plan was not Riddle. There are limited options, with Cody Rhodes also hurt. They can put anyone in there, but aside from Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, and Bobby Lashley, or possibly Gunter, nobody besides Riddle seems even remotely ready for that level. I suppose he could destroy Omos, but Omos lost the feud with Lashley. Not that it matters with WWE booking. When it comes to Cody Rhodes being out of action following surgery to repair a torn pec, Meltzer said that Rhodes is probably returning sooner than the 9-month time frame given. They heavily put over Cody Rhodes on SmackDown, with Michael Cole saying he could be out of action for up to 9 months. Most expected to be less, including him, and the idea of a big Rumble return as a selling point to that show makes sense. WWE filmed his surgery, so the footage will be used in future promotional packages. There is at least talk right now of giving him the Triple H 2001 to 2002 treatment, where his return is built up to be a huge deal. Cody could also be seen yesterday at his Nightmare Factory Wrestling School for tape study. Remember when Diesel and Razor Ramon left WWE and the company made fake versions of those characters? Well, Andrew Zarian on the McMahon podcast said the promotion could be thinking of doing this for Sasha Banks. In their minds, they could clone Sasha with somebody else and have her fit that role. And no problem, it's now a role you're playing. It's a role with mid-level actors. Everybody's a mid-level actor, except for a Roman Reigns or a Brock Lesnar or a Cody Rhodes. Those guys are the stars. With Wrestling Inc. reporting that Sasha has been released by WWE, we're still waiting on an official statement. Given the investigation of alleged hush money payments to a former employee to cover up an affair, Vince McMahon has stepped down as CEO of WWE today and will be appearing on SmackDown tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Stephanie McMahon, who had taken a leave of absence from WWE prior to this story going public, put out this statement. Until the conclusion of the investigation into recent allegations, I am honored to assume the role of interim chairwoman and CEO. I love WWE and all it continues to do to entertain billions around the world. Alex Sherman would report that in regards to his appearance on the Blue brand, new from CNBC, Vince McMahon will speak tonight on SmackDown in character as Mr. McMahon to address his temporary absence. Could be a big ratings night for WWE. McMahon has torn up the script for SmackDown, which was written last night, I'm told. Many online would react to this news. I checked Twitter and Vince McMahon steps down as WWE CEO and Stephanie McMahon is the replacement. Who was supposed to be on break? Vince will be on SmackDown. What is going on? Vince McMahon appearing on SmackDown tonight is just going to make things worse. He's that type of businessman though. God damn it, pal, I need to cut a promo. Only a coward will go in hiding. Then the robotic fan base will believe what he says. Vince McMahon probably gonna blow his brains out live on SmackDown. Vince McMahon expected to appear on SmackDown tonight. It is getting juicier and juicier by the minute, boy. Did they work the Wall Street Journal? Was this also Vince McMahon could do the Vince walk down to the ring and tell us he's God one more time? If all of this was a play to get me tuned in to SmackDown, you won, you old bastard. An hour ago. We may never see Vince in public again. 1 minute ago. Vince McMahon will appear on SmackDown this Friday. Former WWE star Maria Kanellis would write in regards to this, let's not wish for WWE to burn to the ground. There are a lot of good people that work there. WWE employs hundreds of people. Let's just hope the company is bought out by someone or a company that will treat WWE like a business and not a boys club. Health insurance, retirement plans, parental leave, vacation days, childcare, and a clear direction for the future. This is going to be an anxiety-filled time for a lot of people that work there. Hopefully the company culture will change and people will still have jobs they love to feed their families. As mentioned, prior to this scandal becoming public knowledge, Stephanie McMahon decided to announce a leave of absence. Following this, reports would come out that Vince McMahon had sent her home and that she was underperforming. For the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer explained why the company attempted this burial of Stephanie. One person with extensive knowledge of that aspect of the story said that they believe Stephanie McMahon being buried was a preemptive move to preserve the stock price. To the outside world, the idea of Vince McMahon's daughter and the heir apparent to the top position of the company leaving the company she's worked for her entire adult life would sound like something is wrong with the company. So they leak out that she underperformed at her job and her father pushed her out, so that would explain that there wasn't anything wrong. She was just not good at her job. Speaking of the investigation, the Observer pointed out that the WWE president has no part in it. 8 of the 12 members of the WWE board of directors started the investigation in April after first receiving the emails. Of the 4 who are not part of this investigation, 3 were Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, and Paul Levesque. It is believed the 4th person not involved is company president Nick Khan. When talking about WWE superstars reading scripts, Ric Flair told the Two-Man Power Trip podcast that the company was holding his daughter back. You can tell a mile away whether the kids feel it or not. It's a lot of pressure to read something that you don't naturally feel in your heart. That's a big difference. I mean, you could tell the guys that they really take off because they're taking what they've been handed to memorize and then they put some emotion into it. But that's just talking generically today. That doesn't sell tickets. When The Rock comes back and wrestles Roman, that'll sell tickets. When Steve Austin came back, that sold tickets. It's just a different time frame. The talent is great, make no mistake. There's some great wrestlers. Orton, my daughter, Sasha Banks, Styles, like there's a list of great, probably 10 between the two companies. But the events sell themselves, now as much as the wrestlers do. I don't think they turn them loose enough. I know that they want to make sure they get the right advertisers. Everybody has to be happy. It's a whole different world, but I still love it. I just feel like the guys that are really great like Randy and my daughter are held back because WWE don't want them to go that far. They don't want anybody to become The Rock again that's going to walk off. They don't want somebody like Steve that could say I don't want to do it. Back in the day, Hulk could say yes or no. He had that kind of power. I don't know if that's healthy, but Vince won't let that happen again. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.